wanted to, so.
Thank you, Tim,
Thank
for
you, Gina.
coming. I really appreciate it. So I just want to tell you a little bit about, I met Tim. I got to meet him twice in the last few months. I met him at, here in San Pedro, we had an event called Mexican Hollywood. And Tim's, the city of Los Angeles started, they awarded this special place that's dubbed Mexican Hollywood on Alfaro and and Harbor. And it's where my mom was raised when they came from Mexico. Several families came and they lived in this little section. My mom said she was living her best life. She had an oceanfront property, and when the circus came, they just had so much fun, and it was great. And she said that if they ever needed anything like a haircut, you know, Martha can do the haircut. If somebody needed to pick up the kids, it was just beautiful. So I got to meet Tim there, and he knows a lot of our family. Our family's in the port. I say they run the port. And then I got blessed a couple weeks, or last month, I met him at our church. And he awarded our church for 90 years of service, and it was so awesome. So he came and he awarded the church a special plaque from the city of Los Angeles, and it was beautiful. So anyway, so I've been visiting my family that lives in Carson, Wilmington, and I've noticed that there's some, you know, people have questions about immigration, and they think this and that, and when Tim came off, I go, Tim, he's the guy that could answer the question. So I thought I wanted to invite him. I asked him if he would come and speak to our group, and he was so awesome and gracious to say yes. And so I'd like him, so tonight's topic is on, to educate us on the current laws of immigration for a city, and if you can, on the state and the federal. And just to help us get started here.
Thank you. First of all, Evie, thank you so much. Folks who throw their hat in and say, I want to serve, it's really, really, really valuable. And I appreciate you putting yourself out there and talking about a community that, the type of community we want to live in, where, just like in Mexican Hollywood, where people know each other and people look out for each other. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you. And Gina, thank you. At Harbor Christian, when you asked me to come, I was delighted. I also said I don't leave the district very much, so I'm really grateful that we're here, right here in San Pedro, at the library. Let me tell you really briefly about myself. Born and raised here in San Pedro. My father was an LA City firefighter. My mom, mostly, and he raised 6 kids. Couple of other brothers that were firefighters. I had all the opportunities they had. I took a bad turn and became a lawyer. And I found myself in municipal government, representing cities, when I was a young lawyer coming up. And I found myself a little later, mid-career, working for a guy named Jim Hahn as his chief deputy city attorney in an office where we did prosecution and we also did civil work. Jim Hahn became the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, and he brought me along to be his chief of staff. So I worked with him in the mayor's office as his chief of staff. Left the building when the voters, in their infinite wisdom, said, please leave the building. We elected somebody else. Practiced law, mostly in land use and entitlement, working with local government. And then my wife and I came to the decision together when the kids were grown. We have 5 kids. We've raised 5 kids here in town, and the kids were grown, and my wife noticed that I was doing more and more volunteer work. I was doing chamber this and this organization and this nonprofit, and she said, you know, you might as well run. You've always wanted to run for office, so I did. So I ran for LA City Council, the 15th council district, which I call the 1-5, 1 district, 5 beloved communities. Our district is Watts, Harbor Gateway, Harbor City, Wilmington, and San Pedro, my hometown. And that is a little bit about myself. I've been in 3 years, so I'm a relative rookie at this, although I've been around city government. But let's talk immigration and immigration policy. The city of Los Angeles, cities, local governments, tend to have no role in immigration policy even. But of course, everything comes down to implementation and how it works. States have very little role. They set policy. It's a federal function. It is entirely a federal function as far as the rules and the implementation and the enforcement. And I'm 63 years old, so if you look at the course of many of our lives and what we've seen, when I was coming up as a young adult, it was INS, Immigration and Naturalization Services. My mother-in-law is a naturalized citizen from Italy. And we have many family members who are naturalized citizens, and they work through the INS system. In the city of Los Angeles, very specifically, we saw a lot of immigrant activity, a lot of immigrants coming in, whether they were documented or undocumented, late 60s, mid 70s. In the late 70s, in the city of Los Angeles, there was a chief of police, Daryl Gates. Folks remember Daryl Gates. Daryl Gates was some would say, conservative Republican. He was certainly a law and order Republican. And Daryl Gates, as a matter of public safety, we can agree with him or we can disagree with him, but as a matter of public safety, Daryl Gates implemented what's called Special Order 40 in the city of Los Angeles. And what Daryl Gates said, and what the commission said then, was that police officers in the city of Los Angeles, staff in the city of Los Angeles don't have a direct relationship with immigration enforcement, but we do have a need to have a relationship with our communities, whether it's Mexican Hollywood, whether it's San Pedro, whether it's Watts. And of course, relationships haven't always been great for various reasons, but on this issue, Daryl Gates' position was, we need to make sure that we put out an order, and he put out Special Order 40, saying that LAPD was not going to make arrests, make detentions, make stops for the purposes of immigration enforcement. And he didn't do that because he was for or against undocumented immigration. I mean, I would guess he was against it. But what he wanted is he wanted every resident in the city of Los Angeles to feel, every resident in the city of Los Angeles to feel that if they were a victim of crime, or if they were a witness to crime, or if they wanted to be assistance to LAPD, that they could come forward. And they wouldn't feel that coming forward or saying they witnessed a crime would put them on the next bus back to their country. He wasn't making a normative decision about whether he agreed or disagreed, I think. I mean, he's not alive, God rest his soul. But I think what he was making was he was making a decision that it was better for local public safety if LAPD stepped back and was not part of the immigration system.
He said that publicly many times.
I'm sorry?
He said that publicly many times.
Thank you, sir. I only met him a couple of times. I was a young kid in the city attorney's office while he was still alive. But that was his position. So Special Order 40 has been in place for 46 years and has not changed. It's been reaffirmed over and over and over again. If you fast forward from 79, we go to a lot happens in LAPD and in the world, but let's go to September 11th, 2001, 9/11. 9/11 changed a lot of local law enforcement. It certainly changed immigration policy and policies in the United States and across the world. So we went from INS, and I'm going to oversimplify this for my purposes, not yours, to ICE, basically, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. And we changed the focus of how we were going to deal with immigration issues at the federal level. And local government was on the front lines because we were attacked here in this country. It was on the front line of safety and security. And so it monitored chatter. And I remember those days. I was in the city attorney's office at the time. We had LAPD monitoring the chatter and working with federal agencies to know whether or not we had risks and whether we had to, it's hard to remember those days, but closing down tourist attractions on big holidays and having different, it was really a different world. But Special Order did stay in place. Special Order 40 stayed in place and did not change. If we move forward then to 2018, the state of California passed a set of laws that essentially created what some folks refer to as sanctuary state laws. And the state of California, the legislature, the Senate and the Assembly, passed a bill signed by the governor that basically institutionalized for the state a Special Order 40 type rule, saying local law enforcement was not going to participate with ICE, now it's ICE, in enforcement activities with, fortunately, I will say fortunately for public safety, with a number of carve-outs where the participation will happen when there's someone that obviously has returned and has committed a serious felony or a serious misdemeanor or a felony act. And then there is participation under that statutory scheme. Now we fast forward to the LA City Council, and folks presented on the LA City Council a sanctuary city type ordinance. And sanctuary is a really loaded word, but let me tell you what it says. It says that the city of Los Angeles will not use its local resources to, whether it's LAPD or other departments, Rec and Parks or LADWP, to assist ICE in immigration enforcement. And that is really taking Special Order 40 and institutionalizing it, putting it into code. It's in the manual, it's going to stay in the manual for LAPD, but now it goes into the municipal code, or into the city administrative code, I should say. And then other departments who were not actually doing any work with ICE. So it would be unusual for ICE to call Rec and Parks and say, give us your list of ball players and tell us, what families are documented and what families are not documented. When that was being debated, I will say that we introduced a number of amendments, and one amendment that one of my colleagues and I introduced to that statutory scheme is that we did put in the carve-out to make sure that LAPD would do a few things. They would always honor any criminal warrant that was presented to them. So LAPD will always honor a criminal warrant if it's presented by ICE or anybody. We're not going to ignore a warrant. And LAPD, if it in fact makes an arrest and knows that someone has been deported, returned, and is conducting criminal activity, then they will in fact expressly have the exception to be able to reach out to ICE and make sure that we can pick that person back up. That is in there as well. One of the things I passed out, and I apologize for its thickness, but it's something for you to peruse and have. It is a bulletin that LAPD puts out that really unpacks the do's and don'ts for LAPD, how it sees everything from Special Order 40 to the state statutory scheme to the local city council rule. And so it's really a series of FAQs that sort of lays it all out. But I think the important things for us to know is that there is nothing about the set of rules that we call sanctuary city that prevents LAPD, and there should never be anything that prevents LAPD from pursuing and enforcing against crime. There's nothing in the rule that says that you don't, if you observe a crime, or if you have probable cause to believe there's a crime, or if you have an investigation for crime, status absolutely does not matter for whether or not you pursue that crime, prosecute that person, and bring that person to justice. There is a rule, there is a difference between whether or not you know that someone has been deported and returned and conducted that crime, then you participate with ICE, but otherwise you don't. You fingerprint them, you book them, you prosecute them. DAs come and go. I think we know now, today we have a DA that's actually going to prosecute more of these, right?
Yeah.
1,000 times better.
And so I wanted to kind of lay that all out, but then I want to talk about some of our local experiences, okay? So just to recap what I said, the feds responsible for it, elections matter. It'll matter to everybody, Democrats and Republicans alike, elections matter. The Fed set the policy. The state has come up with some rules about how all local governments will interact with the federal government, and our local government has come up with a set of rules for how we will interact, and we have taken the Daryl Gates Special Order 40 and basically institutionalized that throughout the city government, but also making sure that we do not turn away from a circumstance where we know that someone has been deported, returned, and is committing crime. And we have been really careful, and this message doesn't get out, we have been really careful to make sure we never put LAPD in a position where they can't prosecute a crime. Now, I'll take questions on that in a little bit, but I do want to talk about sort of what's happening in the harbor area, knowing that my district is particularly here is San Pedro, Wilmington, Harbor City, Gateway, and Watts. We know that there's been a surge, you know, with the bill, the big beautiful bill, that there's been a more hiring and a surge and more activity in ICE, and I think we're going to see more and more of that over the years. I don't think that's something that's going to change any time in the future. We also know that some of the ICE officers are being not housed because they're not sleeping overnight, but they are being staged on Terminal Island at the Coast Guard base. And the Coast Guard base is federal property, and it's on the island. And so being the Coast Guard and ICE being within the same milieu of, you know, initial departments, they stage there and they exit from that base on a daily basis and go out and do their activities. What we have seen in our district is that we don't see everything. I want to be really, really clear about this. You know, observations are anecdotal. So I don't know everything that's happening. I am hoping that what ICE is doing is that they're doing investigations and they're looking to see where criminal activity is happening, where criminal activity is intersecting with undocumented aliens. I hope that's where they're starting. I say that from my personal view. I hope that's where they're starting. We do see other raids on, you know, car washes and at Home Depots and at taco stands. I've had some anecdotal evidence of some folks that I actually know that have experienced raids. We had one in Wilmington where, let me finish that sentence, where the person picked up didn't appear to me to be a hardened criminal. I mean, that's just my observation. And I'm going to say that because it's important for us as an elected official. It's important for me to speak to you honestly where I'm coming from. You can disagree with me, you can ask me questions on it, but I will give you just one example, and it's just an anecdotal example. Oha's Coffee Shop in Wilmington. Great family, wonderful, you know, couple who runs that coffee shop, and they've had the business for 12 years. One of their employees of 12 years, a guy named Eloy Marin, who is not documented, according to his family, was taking out the trash, and he was arrested. Now, whatever is going to happen to him is going to happen to him. The law is the law. You know, I'm a lawyer. The law is good enough for me. And you sort of give folks a chance to defend themselves in the process, and whatever will happen, will happen. But I'm kind of hoping that, I know I'm saying this maybe to a skeptical group, but I'm kind of hoping that if we are going to be investing big dollars in public safety, that we use them on honest to God public safety, or start with hardened criminals. You can come back to me and say, anybody who's in this country without documentation is illegal, and I understand that argument. I understand that argument. But if you hear me out there talking about what I think should happen, what I think should happen is that we should be looking at protecting our communities from crime. And I say that with an open heart and honestly with you. And I also think it's really important for us, because I love this country so much, no matter how big the flags are, I love this country, and I love our Constitution, and we need to stick to that. Whether we're on the Democratic side or the Republican side or some other side, I think what we should always come back to is constitutional principles. That needs to be our guiding light. And so when you hear me talk about constitutional principles or, warrants or probable cause or reasonable suspicion, it's not because I want anything other than what I hope we all want. We want a country of values where we all understand what the value system is and we work towards that. And in disagreement, the most important thing to have is a constitution. Really, it really is the most important thing. And follow the rules. And the rules are set by this court, and then it goes to this court, and then it goes to that court. And I understand that. And there's a system for how folks get appointed. There's a system for how long they're on there. And I think we all have to, I know that this is a group that probably agrees with this. We all have to understand what the system is. We have to commit to it. And we have to commit even in disagreement that we get through it together. I'm happy to take questions. I've probably evoked a couple of them. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I wanted to ask you, recently there was a raid around First Street, at least what the news said about gang activity. We've always had a severe problem with gang activity around First and Second.
First and Second Street, yeah, right. I know exactly what you mean.
So I was wondering if you could share, because
Yep.
we're so close to the port.
Yep.
And you can see what happened with the gangs and they steal the trucks and so forth.
Oh my
Can you share
God,
more
yeah.
about
Yeah,
that?
I can. That was actually an FBI. It was just a couple days ago, and it went over 2 days actually, and folks saw FBI and they saw federal agents and we saw big equipment, and I put out a post after it started, because I had to wait till after it started, to let folks know that was a 3-year investigation into gang activity that was sometimes referred to as Mexican Mafia, also referred to as Rancho San Pedro. I don't like using gang names because I don't want to give them any sort of credibility, but I will say in this crowd that's what it was. And there were 14 targets, 14 individuals that they went after. In those day and a half, they arrested 13 of them. And those 13 eventually will flip on the 14th one. And it was 3 years of work. It was great work by LAPD. It was great partnership with FBI and ATF. And it was mostly around guns and drugs and some violent behavior. And it was exceptional work by LAPD.
So those people are actually living in San Pedro, those 13 people?
No, it was San Pedro and I'm sorry that I'm hesitating. It was San Pedro and Wilmington.
Okay.
And then obviously one person on the run.
Okay, thank you.
But they had lived in San Pedro for many years.
Yes, these were local, and these weren't folks who came in from somewhere else. I mean, these are family names that we know.
Oh,
People we
brother.
know.
That's pretty dirty.
Yes, sir.
All right, Tim, I appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
I voted for you.
Thank you.
Me
You
too.
knocked on my door one day, and we had a long conversation. I don't know if you remember that or not.
When you stood up, I just did, yes.
I'm
Okay.
also running for governor right now.
Yep.
And let's refocus on the sanctuary city.
Yep.
First of all, let me say this. LAPD in 2025 is not the same LAPD of 2010. And I mean that as a compliment, right?
Yep.
But you know as well as I do that that LAPD has no control, impact, or influence on allowing ICE, on federal agents, to have access to the county jails or to the prisons.
True.
And so this is where Sanctuary City rule backfired on all of us. Because ICE does not want to be out here in the community chasing people down. It's too dangerous for people in the community, and it's too dangerous for them. Sanctuary City policies really harm everyone. Whether we want to admit it or not publicly, and we generally don't, California's economy is very much dependent upon immigrant workers. 76% of them are documented. Only 26% of them are not documented. And all of the 76% of them are not all clear citizens, but they're in the pipeline on their way to establishing citizenship.
Right.
They are not the problems. Whether it's the 76% or the 26% whatever.
I understand what you're
Yeah,
saying.
but what is the question?
The question is, how do we work together? Sanctuary city policies works with the federal government. We need to all be working together.
Yeah, yeah.
Sanctuary city policies backfire. They harmed everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So, I think I'll go back to my hope, and I would imagine it's your hope too, that when LAPD works with federal agencies and joint task forces against crime, it is really, really effective. And we know that we have a current legitimate concern about, organized crime, theft rings that are coming from out of the country.
Yeah.
And I will say that there are currently task forces. There's one going on right now I can say very little about that involves that issue. And I feel like LAPD and the feds working together on joint task forces that are focused on crime, whether they are involved citizens or resident aliens or undocumented aliens, is the answer.
Yeah, which America won't allow that to happen.
Well, but it's happening. It is happening. And it's happening in strategic, targeted ways. I want it to happen more. And again, I feel like we are aligning the sort of the law and order, the reasonable law and order part of our world is aligning with our DA, and I would like to have a better relationship with our federal agencies. And if the initials are other than ICE, I think we can be really effective. And I think we have to live in the, and I understand that look, but I feel like we have to live in the world of what's attainable.
I actually agree with you.
Yeah, we have to live in what's attainable. And crime is crime is crime.
Yes.
And serious, and we are overrun with guns and drugs, and we're losing that battle. And I think that I shouldn't say we're losing that battle. We lose that battle. We have some successes, but not enough. And I think we need to get back to a better relationship with our federal agents, and we need to free up LAPD to foster those.
Okay, go ahead, Arthur.
Okay, I'll take the microphone so it's easier.
Oh, sure.
If you don't mind. Okay, so I'm just, no, I don't have to scream. Okay, this is actually pretty good. Okay, so, you're saying it, a crime is a crime is a crime.
Yeah.
Being in this country illegally is a crime. And it is more than appropriate for ICE to be enforcing our immigration laws. It is a crime. And so, I've seen some of your social media, you're like warning people about ICE being in the neighborhood. That's really inappropriate. It's their job to be enforcing immigration laws. Okay, if you're not going to help them, that's one thing, but it's like you're frustrating them. That's not right. I just have to put that out there right now. That is wrong. No, you're saying thank you, but that's not right.
No, I appreciate you saying it, and I'm happy to
Okay,
respond.
now I'm getting to the bigger point here. I got to really try to paint this picture as quickly as I can. Westlake Village, it was 2016. There were 4 Americans. Okay, there were 5. Okay, there were 4 visiting from Iowa trying to help a runaway. They ran to L.A. Everybody wants to run to L.A. I get it. The weather's nice compared to Iowa. Okay, there was an illegal transient, Johnny Sanchez, who was in this country illegally. He had committed multiple crimes, but because L.A. is a sanctuary city, he was released. He was never turned over to ICE. And you know what he did that day? It was in June. He set the building on fire in a retaliation strike. It killed those 5 Americans, including a transient named DeAndre Mitchell. Okay, they're dead now because of that illegal. And I don't like the term undocumented. That's really offensive. They're illegal. They broke the law if they're here illegally. Okay, I have a friend. Her name is Angie. Her son was murdered by an illegal alien 4 days after Christmas. Agnes Gibbony, she could be here. Her son was murdered by an illegal, a gangbanger, like the one that they rounded up a few weeks ago. All of these sanctuary city policies are encouraging these criminals on top of the crime of being illegally here. What would you like to say to those family members? And what are you going to do about this so that we don't have this problem again?
Thank you. So again, I'll come back to crime crime, wherever it happens, by whomever causes the crime, needs to be fully prosecuted under the law. And when we are aware of someone who has been deported, has returned, and has committed that crime, we turn that person over and we work with.
Okay, and I do appreciate that. I was not aware of that, so I do. That's an improvement, and I do respect that. But you know, it's like the double talk needs to end. They committed a crime by being in the country illegally, and that's the point. Why do you think it's acceptable that it's okay for them to stay then? I don't get that, because it's a crime. You're recognizing that.
Well, I will say this, that our enforcement tools and our enforcement dollars, our enforcement abilities are always going to be finite. And my point is that I would rather prosecute and go after and deport those folks, redeport those folks who are engaged in criminal activity, the types of folks you talked about, and use our taxpayer dollars as wisely and as efficiently and as effectively as possible. Because Eloy Marin, taking out the trash at Ojas, has never committed a crime against you and never will.
But yes, he did commit a crime because he was in the country illegally. Okay, that is a crime. And you know, it doesn't have to cost a dime. Let ICE do its job. That doesn't cost any money.
Yes, it does. We do pay ICE.
Okay, wait. LA City is paying ICE.
No, we taxpayers. I'm a federal
Well, I
taxpayer.
paid for. I'm fine with that.
I
It's
know,
their
I understand.
job.
I understand. You can be fine with it.
Okay. So that's kind of yeah.
You can be fine with it. I understand your argument entirely.
Go ahead,
Thank
Tricia.
you.
Go ahead.
Actually, can I just share really quickly? Hi. I actually know a person who has a cousin who's a citizen, and he actually was deported on accident. He was picked up at a Home Depot. He does contracting. He didn't have his ID, and he actually was taken to Tijuana mistakenly. His cousin, Angel, he works for as a banker, but he had to go down there and pick up his cousin. He showed him papers, and then he brought him back. I just wanted to share that story. Just, you know, maybe things aren't exactly going smoothly with this whole operation, but I did want to share that just as a point of information for everybody.
All right.
And I would like to move on to another question. We have limited time here. Yes.
My beloved honorable council member, I didn't vote for you either the second time around, but I did the first.
I only ran once.
Well, it seemed like we were still voting, but okay. Thank you for that correction. So, I was gonna start a little different, but my father came here legally in the 1940s. He did everything correctly, had family to sponsor him, and then he decided to marry my mother after 5 years of dating. He came here, like I said, in the 40s, and he prepared everything for her. So went back, married her, and then their honeymoon was dragging back 3 days, and went through the whole deal. So my mother decided she didn't want to be a American citizen. She wanted to be a legal resident, which she is. She's going on 94. And my father decided to be a citizen, and not only that, but he fell in love with this country by reading about all the precedents. In the 1960s, I was born in 56, and in the 60s, my father was very sad, almost crying, and said to me, "Sweetheart, I want you to be proud. I want you to be proud that I decided to make this our home. Because in Mexico, you're always, the laws are very different. You're always guilty to proven innocent, and here it's different. Because this is a Judeo country, and we believe in God, and, as Catholics, we were strong Catholics. But I don't want you to get too high and mighty if you happen to meet people that came here illegally, did things incorrectly. It's not right what they did. It is not right. And unfortunately, in this country that I love very much, the immigration laws have not been upgraded. When your grandfather used to come here and work in the things, then he had a permit. And I wish you would bring that permit back so people don't want to stay here. They want to come and work and leave. So a little compassion in that area. Okay, so I hear what you're saying, that there should be compassion, that it's like the whole country is at fault in a way, because we allowed it to happen for so many years. Catch and release, catch and release. So I just wanted to touch that real lightly, but I am a very strong believer that, we should come here legally and do things right. I love the olive branch that President Trump has done by saying, go back, we'll give you money, and you have a possibility of coming back, provided that you did everything right. So I would love to tell all my loving friends, neighbors, that take that olive branch, do it right. We'll write letters for you to come back and do things right. But having said that, so the difference between federal law and a city law. So I understand that the federal law oversees
Should be a question.
the sanctuary. So could you explain a little bit more on that, sir? You know, how, between the sanctuary law and the city laws, and nationally speaking, but we're here in California. Did I make myself clear?
I think so.
Oh,
I
thank
think
you.
so.
Thank you, sir.
Federal law is always going to trump. It has supremacy. Federal law is the federal law. There's nothing that a state or a city can do to change that law. And the circumstance that the state and now the city puts itself in is to say that we won't use our resources to assist. And then we have those carve-outs that I think were important for public safety. So if you're asking whether or not something the city does can change federal law, the answer is no. Federal law is primary. It's preemptive, as they say it in the law. It preempts.
We have time for maybe a couple,
Yeah, I'd like to hear
one
you.
more question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I know we've been talking a lot about public safety in relation to immigration and
Yeah.
things like that, but specifically, I mean, obviously, the city of LA in a financial crisis as it is, and we also, I mean, we just almost had over 1,000 layoffs. And I know you guys did a lot of work to try and prevent that from happening, but yeah, we still spend millions and millions of dollars out of city budget for immigration services and things like that that are really helping people that maybe should or shouldn't be here stay here. And so combining that with the priorities of our budget, and it seems out of whack. That's my perspective. I'm just kind of curious what your perspective is on that.
Sure. So you're right. The proposed budget hole, or the anticipated budget hole, was about $1 billion, and we closed all of those gaps, saved actually the jobs by moving people around. I'm not aware of the millions and millions of dollars that go to any services, because we don't provide police, we provide fire, we provide rec and parks. Maybe there's an incremental cost on serving kids at the parks. We don't do the schools, so I'm not sure what those dollars are you're referring
Just in
to.
terms of, so this is through after, yeah.
There are lawyer services provided to.
Legal services,
Legal services.
health costs.
Fight against
Yeah.
ICE,
Yeah.
incarceration, all that. That's all
Exactly.
provided by the city of LA.
So
there's
it is costing
there's
us
a
money.
There's a fund that the county puts in some amount of money, and the city has put in $1 million.
Okay. And that's why I was just kind of curious what, in terms of some of those monies going towards that versus
Yeah.
some of the other budget issues
Thank
that
you.
we have.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we do
California, what?
Sorry, Tim, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. I was just trying to learn, I lived here 40 years ago and I moved away and I recently came back.
Uh-huh.
And I was flabbergasted that the county of LA and the city of LA are doing something which kind of contradicts what you just said, and I'm trying to learn more about it.
Yeah.
There are service unions, and the city of LA has to pay people to do a lot of things, like trim the trees,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yes.
And there are thousands and thousands of people in the county of LA doing this. And I'm coming to an understanding a lot of these people are not here legally. And so you're using the taxpayers' money to hold it out as a carrot to attract these people to get jobs here instead of people who live here. And you're saying something like maybe the city spends $1 million on
No, we
those?
spend.
Yeah, it's
I think it's a bigger amount.
tree trimming is done in the city of LA. It's done by city employees.
You don't contract out to a tree trimming service.
No, we don't contract. We contract very little service, and we don't contract tree
They
trimming.
do it themselves for the most part.
Yeah, we use city employees.
Okay.
I mean,
I
that's
know
a
the
different
county-
subject.
The county, I was aware of contracts out to a lot of different,
Yeah,
but at the city, I didn't know. I'm just trying to get an understanding. Thank you.
yeah. So all of our sidewalks, streets, curbs, gutters, tree trimming, lights, it's all city employees. Yeah. We have cleanup crews, but sometimes it's volunteer.
We'll do one more question, Arlene, and then we gotta wrap up.
By the way, I just want to respond to what somebody else, what you said before. In 2017, California spent $560,000 for legal aid for illegal immigrants. That was in 2017. Who knows what they're doing now? But why are we spending our taxpayer money for legal aid for immigrants on how to get around law enforcement so they could stay here? That's one question. But then I have one other question. This morning, my girlfriend told me that her husband, who is an ICE agent and lives in our community, is afraid to come home every night. So what he does is he takes a circuitous route to get home to protect his family. Why? Because the LA police are afraid to help him or protect him. They know that he's at risk. There, in this community, there are people who have put up lots of YouTubes, and those YouTubes talk about killing ICE agents. This is not a safe community. If anybody in our community isn't safe, no matter what their job is, even if they're an executioner, the police has to protect them. But the police are afraid because of the laws like SB 54 and because of S40. They're afraid to even help ICE. But not only that, they're afraid to let ICE pick up criminals from prisons who have finished their sentence. And now those criminals who've committed a crime in LA go back out into our community, this community, including Harbor, which has lots of gangs, go out in our communities to commit more crimes. Are we allowing this? Tim, like a really nice guy, I'm really impressed that you're here tonight because this is a conservative Republican club. That's amazing. I have to give you kudos for that. But I want you to really look at this from the perspective of logic and the laws of our country. And I've got a feeling you do, but you're kind of stuck, you know?
Well, I will say this. I will say that when we had the excellent question, what is California about? I mean, my answer for government has to always be about public safety. The only reason we ever formed, we pushed our huts together and formed cities or little villages, and now we have cities. The only way it works is if we have public safety. So the idea of LAPD being afraid to protect anyone in our community is terrible. I mean, I will take this back to the chief.
Thank you.
But
I respect
but I
that.
think but every single person, every single resident, every single visitor, everybody who just passes through the city deserves public safety. And we can't have anybody, at risk of violence or harm, and I agree, regardless of their job. That's not right.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Everyone deserves public safety, even illegal immigrants. However, they shouldn't be here. Why are we using our police resources to protect people who are illegally in our country? That's a crime.
Yeah, and I would say we're supposed to let ICE do its job, and we're not supposed to be using police resources. I'm agreeing with you.
What about the prisons? Why can't the police do this? Why can't that guy that you say who was arrested, who had been here 10 years, never committed a crime, but he was an illegal?
Yeah.
Okay, allow another.
Can I just say one thing? If he was working, if ICE was working with the police, a police officer could say, yeah, he's illegal, but he's a good guy, he pays taxes, he's a good member of the community. And ICE could differentiate and nuance what they're doing.
I understand. With the lack of communication, that's the shame. I do want to make sure our Lieutenant Governor candidate has an opportunity.
Last question.
Thank you for coming. I know that these are really hard questions, and you're doing the best that you can to give the information that you have available. My question on the lines of safety. So it's estimated that over 346,198 UAC, which is, I'm sorry, I forget what the U stands for, but it's the children who are coming over without any type of adults.
Unaccompanied minors, yeah.
Unaccompanied, thank you.
minors, yeah.
Unaccompanied alien children have been led across illegally into our borders since 2022 when he took office. And of those, it's estimated that 70 to 80% of them are trafficked for labor and sex. And we know that they're coming over at our Mexico-California border. Quite a few of them end up in large sanctuary cities such as ours here in Los Angeles. What is being done to assist ICE and the federal government with getting those children out of the traffickers' hands and stopping this ring and this system of trafficking that has increased since, I believe it was 2020.
Yeah. So we actually did have put a lot of resources relative to our budget into combating human trafficking. And it is a horrific problem. It is for work and for sex. And so we have human trafficking task forces that we funded in LAPD. We have particular areas that we look at. Figueroa Corridor, as you know, growing up in South LA is horrific, and our city attorney and our DA, fortunately, and our city and our LAPD we have jointly CD15 and CD8. We've put money into task forces, and again, we're not going to make those folks that are the victims of the trafficking the criminals. We're going to be making the criminals who have created this the criminals. And so our participation, everything I said about the exceptions to our sanctuary policies would apply to folks that are trafficking human beings, because those are serious felonies. Serious felonies. So we're putting money into it, and we're working on it hard. And we have a council and a city attorney and a DA right now that cares so much about this issue.
You can give the victims a U visa too to help them. Do you have a card? I'll send you the info on that. Okay, that way you can help the victims.
Excuse me, guys, if you have to clean up, we have a hard out.
I think Tim.
Excuse me before I